right, Olesya, thank you for joining the show today.
Hello, Scott. I'm so happy to be here.
Excellent. I'm happy you're here. I mean, this is going to be an amazing conversation. I think you're going to have a
Hope so.
lot to teach me because there's a lot here that I probably have no idea about, and I'm excited to learn something today. So, no pressure, of course, but
Yeah,
so
I'm like,
let's,
okay.
from the intro, people probably heard a few of your background a little bit. So, and they're like, what in the world did Scott just say about this background? So I'm going to read it off again real quickly. And I would love for you, in your own words, what is it exactly? What is a functional diagnostic practitioner? And what is a psychosomatic and energy healer? So what is that, first of all?
So it's basically in simple words with functional medicine practitioners. So I use the lab tests and I work with best US labs. So we send them to your house, sometimes with phlebotomy. So I do the hormone tests and gut tests, it's neurotransmitters, your brain health, you name it. And then I design custom nutrition and herbs and supplements and whatever your body needs, the minerals, protocols around your own unique body. And about psychosomatics, so I studied in Russia and we study the effect of our mind, of our belief. We're like a little, can you imagine a cabbage? It has a lot of leaves. So
Yeah.
the person inside is the core. And then we have conditioning of other people, truths, beliefs, and all of the basically BS, excuse my French, that some people think that is truth on us. And that the body keeps the score. So all of these traumatic episodes, other people limiting beliefs, they get lodged in our body, creating kind of like the energy problem, the physical problem actually. And our bodies are more electrical than physical actually, like thanks to metaphysics we know more and more about it. So these interruptions in energy and electricity are in our body from our mind and our thoughts lead to disease, chronic disease. So I like to work, my approach is you can connect to your soul through your body and mind, to real you without all these cabbage leaves, like whatever other people through your lifetime to put on you. It's like I call it you becoming kind of like hypnotized by life. You think that you want to do one thing, but you do totally different thing. You're loving good soul inside, you meditate for an hour and you're loving, you just like zen in there, and then you come to life and you scream at your children and the husband or wife chewing loud and you want to kill them and you're like, why? I'm a different person inside. But you have these triggers in that reptilian brain, the limbic part of your brain, that responsible for survival. It keeps the score. So I'm really good into going there and like take the old software out and putting new software in. So kind of like teaching the brain to stop being hypnotized by triggers and go to that person, the real you, the core of the cabbage,
The
sort
core
of
of the
speaking,
cabbage.
yeah, without all these leaves that other people put on you, like literally, like remember that Shrek when he said we're like onions, layers and layers and
Yeah.
layers. Yeah, so I like to peel those layers.
I love that you just use a Shrek reference to figure
Yeah.
out the mind. I love that. So okay, so I'm somewhat familiar with functional medicine. So would that's considered more so Eastern medicine than Western medicine, right?
Well, functional medicine, it's more going to the root cause. So, and of course, as a practitioner, not a doctor, although I started to become an naturopath, I use more of a like a herbs, powder, supplement, so I cannot prescribe the medication. But this is kind of Western approach, but designed not to just match the symptoms and supplement or medication, but get more to the root cause, to like what's going on with our hormones. Let's go layer deeper. Again, the Shrek and onions, let's go layer deeper. So I like to go layer deeper when we talk about trauma, when we talk about psychosomatics. So psycho, it's our mind effect on our body. Somatic means body. And this is mind body connection. So, and in the body, I like to go layer deeper. Like if we're talking about hormones, it's just a chemical messenger. For example, if you're talking about a package from Amazon got lost, you didn't receive it, you're probably going to call the Amazon. You're not going to, run around and look for the guy in the truck who delivers it. So the same about hormones. I'm like, why hormone? It's just like that guy with the package. Why it's not being delivered? So that hormones need to come out of the brain. The signal needs to come out of the brain. Brain is a big part of our endocrine system. When people talk about hormones, they don't understand it all starts with the brain. And we're all chronically fatigued. And we don't remember even where we put our keys, and we want our brain be our CEO, right? And then it's that hormone, it takes a long way sometimes to get delivered to the cell. What's important is actually the cell. Is it going to let the hormone in or not? So I like to go layer deeper. Is the cell calcified when I always say, stop drinking tons of water, especially the water that you don't know the quality, the mineral balance, because it calcifies the cell. If we have inflammation in the body, mucus, lots of pathogenic bacteria, the cells get calcified because mitochondria, powerhouses in our body, as soon as they detect, I call them orcs, the Lord of the Rings, when the orcs coming to the city, the whole people in the city, what they're going to do? They're going to drop what they're doing and they're going to go on the walls to protect the city. So the mitochondria, when it's making energy for us, electricity, everything works in our body with electricity. We're very cool electric beings, like Avatar movie, And then when we lose this electricity, this energy, this potency, when mitochondria detects orcs, invaders, it gets into defense mode and it locks the cell. And then we're talking about, oh, I'm insulin resistant, or I need something sweet all the time, or I have hypothyroidism because I'm gaining weight because of my thyroid. Why? And it all runs layer deeper. Is it the yeast? Is it the fungus? Is it something in the brain? Is it the heavy metal? And if we're lacking of minerals, we're gonna absorb heavy metals like sponges. Healthy body that has enough minerals not gonna absorb metals and inorganic calcium at the rate I see it in the people when I do the HTMA test. It's all very important. And why do I lacking minerals? Because they harvest the fruits and vegetables because they're ripened. They only get enough minerals when they ripen right there on a tree, on a bush, on a vine, So it's a lot. And I like to go layer deeper in how I like to look at the bodies. We remove everything that doesn't belong in there. So mitochondria wouldn't be in the defense mode. And we put all of these building blocks as minerals, enzymes, everything that body needs to make energy, to be healthy, to thrive, and not to absorb, what it doesn't need to absorb from the environment.
Wow. I mean, okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. I love it. I appreciate it, though. It was a great explanation. So I want to go back to when you talked about onions and cabbages. I think that's the first part of what you were going over. So, obviously, so what you're saying is we're all born kind of this naked onion or naked cabbage. And then throughout life, whether it's stress at work, stress at home, stress in relationship, whatever it might be, you start to gain these layers. And it could be addiction. It could be almost anything that happens. And this creates almost this traumatic effect. And then people, at least in the US, I would say people tend to go to the doctor and say, hey, I have, X, Y, and Z issue. This hurts, this doesn't feel good. And what we do is we just kind of prescribe some medicine, some drugs, and say, okay, try and figure it out. And with a functional medicine approach, you don't necessarily prescribe anything. You say, okay, why? You try to figure, okay, so why is this hurting? What is happening in your life? And how do we rectify what's happening? So and again, I'm not to bash on Western medicine, because obviously there's a lot of great things for it. But what you're saying is, so I guess my question is, why do most doctors, if this is a practice out there where you okay, you have the onions, okay, what's the deep level? What's the meaning behind your pain? Because in the training world, so I'm a trainer by heart and or by practice, and someone will tell me, hey, Scott, my back hurts. And I'm like, okay, well, so tell me about what's going on. And we do some tests. We find out that their back hurts, or their lower back hurts, because A, their posture, like their shoulders are rounded, or B, they have very, very tight hips from sitting all day. Those are two of the most common reasons people have a hurt back. And so it's not actually their back that's the issue. It's the other muscles that are compensating for the pain that they get. So I guess and that's very similar to, okay, we have to identify what's actually going on. But if you're just a general doctor, you might say, take some Advil and your back might feel better. And again, and that's a very simplistic take on what doctors do. I'm just trying to get the point across. So I guess, why don't more doctors practice functional medicine versus just kind of prescribing pills and saying, here you go, figure it out, and sometimes sometimes I feel like they do. They go, hey, go to physical therapy, do this. But a lot of the time it's almost just easier to say, oh, you're depressed, go get some Prozac. Oh, you have anxiety, go get some, whatever the drug is nowadays for all these different things. Why is that the first go-to versus what you're talking about as, well, that's not really what, you don't really prescribe that. You're like, hey, what's going on in your life? How do we look at what's going on to see why you feel a certain way? So why do you think it's like that?
Well, I don't want to sound mean, but unfortunately, I think there's two or three points I can kind of reply with. The first one is, when you're a doctor, you have license. So you have the structure, and basically that's why when I had a choice, to apply to the associations, do the license or not to do, because in my approach, I use a lot of really interesting, but out of traditional world compounds and things. I decided not to get licensed. But if you're a licensed doctor, you have the protocol. And when people come to you, unfortunately, you can't go left or right. And when you're in school to become a doctor, and right now I see how much information and how much time in school we spend to study absolutely unnecessary things. But the schools are funded by the industry, and the industry is the medication, the pills, the supply to keep it's marketing, it's business, it's a big industry. And a lot of amazing doctors, when they step forward, and when the modern virus, the fancy one, came in, a lot of doctors step in and start saying something. How many of them suffered, their career suffered, some of them even had to leave US. So whenever doctor, and especially if the doctor who has license, go left or right, it's considered treason.
Not okay.
I'm just saying, yes, it's definitely not okay. They can lose license, they can even go to jail. And of course they can be sued, there is practice, there's a lot. And second one, like I mentioned, they in school, and a lot of them genuinely think that they're helping people with these medications because they didn't learn anything else. And unfortunately, some of them, they don't expand their view and the technology. When I use like the best test that available right now, I look at the regular, your friendly neighborhood clinic, and it's going to be another 20 years before they receive these tests. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I am using these tests with my
what test are you? What test?
For example, GI map. We're using the DNA of a bacteria instead of just looking at the stool test under microscope. Some of the neurotransmitters testing, we'll see what's going on in the people's brain, their dopamine, serotonin, these neurotransmitters that affect your leadership, you feel good, your business ideas, your business decisions, the thing how you're present in life, how you accomplish your task. We can see it in your brain that you're lacking some of those, and we can, cool stuff, right? And how many doctors could help people if something like this was discussed in a regular clinic. And another thing, of course, this is the time, the time when the patient come. For example, I have all of these scorecards. I spend my time with the person. When the person comes to me, it's just, I look at everything, at a history, what's going on with the mom, what's going on with dad, because I know how family tree, the microbiome, we call it like hormones, a way of thinking in the family. It runs through generations. Why? Because we get the strep and staph bacteria that affect our brain, literally affect our brain, from our mom and from grandmother. So I can tell what's going to be going on, and they turn on and off our genes. And the best stuff right now, that with manipulation of our microbiome, that bacteria that live in us, and especially the fungus, the yeast, the fungus, we can manipulate our genes. We can manipulate our neurotransmitters, because when you change that microbiome, Scott, it's like the whole universe changes. You become a different person.
Are you saying that? And so for those who don't know, the microbiome, in a very, very easy to understand way, is basically an environment of bacteria that's in your stomach.
Yeah, basically the little guys,
there.
bacteria.
And it lives there. And it's how, so when you eat food and drinks, it goes down there and basically they take care of it. And what you're saying is that a lot of people potentially have some negative effects if they're eating really crappy food and they're not healthy, they're not exercising, that their microbiome won't be as healthy, and that could cause specific issues that they might be having. So for example, and this could be a reach. So what you're saying is, if you change your diet, then if you have anxiety or depression or chronic pain, that could literally just change by changing the foods that you eat.
Absolutely. I changed my body. I changed my face. I changed my character with manipulating microbiome. And the exercise, not a lot of people know, but exercise affects bacteria a lot, not less than food. And a lot of things, fasting can affect bacteria, can affect yeast, and can affect the fungus that lives in the lymphatic system, in the brain.
How does it affect it? Like, how does fasting?
It reduces the opportunistic bacteria. And after you do, like, I use the conditional fast after you go through conditional fast, meaning we turn off digestion, but we're still feeding the cell.
How long?
So I use the combination of the Russian herbs. They have the vitamins, the nutrients in them. And I use the combination of, I think, 13 or 17. I manipulate a little bit of Russian herbs, and then a little bit of raw honey and lemon, and you fast on that. So basically and then I use magnesium sulfate to kind of like absorb everything that's coming out, the toxins. It works like a reverse osmosis filter. But the cool thing is your pancreas, your liver, your small intestine, your large intestine, they're like, ooh, we're taking a break, but you still, with the minerals and vitamins, like I use stinging nettle, for example, it has a combination of amazing minerals and vitamins in it. And there are a lot of different herbs, and like licorice, the rose hip, chamomile. So, and your cell getting the nutrients and vitamins, but because it's all liquid, it's called conditional fast. You kind of like mimicking fast. If you have less than 100 calories a day, your body thinks that you're fasting, basically.
How long is a conditional fast?
How long it can last?
Like, how long do you go for? Because
yeah, you can go 5 days. I would
5 days.
Yes, and you can go up to 21 days easily.
Only
because you're not hungry.
Calories?
Yes, you're not hungry, and of course you're going to lose some of the weight, but you're gonna gain it back after.
Because it's not for the weight loss. It's not for weight loss. It's for digestive.
It's for digestion. It's for kind of like for people with the chronic problems like IBS, like Crohn's, yes, like SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, C4, small intestine fungus overgrowth. This is like absolutely life-saving thing, because you heal that leaky gut, you heal that intestinal wall, and you reset your bacteria. So when the good bacteria, right, the beneficial bacteria, when we don't eat, they sacrifice themselves, right? And when you have opportunistic bacteria like staph, for example, when you don't eat, they eat you. Basically, the parasites. That's why so many people have hard time fasting, just water fast. And actually, it's easier to fast without water. And it's yes, I wouldn't believe that too at first, but in my limitless body, what we do, we remove yeast and bacteria, and with the conditional fast, I help you to like heal that poor, IBS, the tummy that always hurting. This is kind of like the first stage, and then it becoming a lot easier to fast. And when we get to this, we start with kind of like not eating, drinking after 6, and you see when your body without water gets into autophagy a lot faster. The more you drink, the more you actually want to eat. And a lot of this coming from water not having the mineral balance, water actually not getting into the cell, especially water we drink nowadays.
That's the second time you mentioned water, not having the proper minerals. So if I'm Joe Schmo, right? I'm living in, wherever, right? Let's just say the US, just for the sake of argument. Where do I get my water from? Is there a certain bottled water? Is there a certain brand? Where do I get my water from if they don't have the minerals?
Oh boy, Scott, you won't believe it. I moved to Florida from Oregon, and I got TDS meter, to measure total dissolved substances in the water, and I found out how horrible water in Florida. So it has a ton of inorganic calcium. It has like fluoride, bromides, and a lot of things. And the worst thing that these little plastic bottles with the spring water, they worse than the water from your tap.
Because don't they absorb the plastic?
Yes, the plastic plus all of this inorganic calcium and a lot of things that just like because of our soils changed, the OPK fertilizers, and we live on one earth, so all of the things that happen, like they find toxin in polar bears, insecticides they spray in the parks right now. So the water is not the same. The mineral balance, unfortunately, it contains a lot of inorganic minerals versus our cells need more of a potassium, sodium, so the electrolytes. And the water from that we see right now in the supermarkets, tap water and even spring water, it has a lot of inorganic calcium. And that, when you're making a tea and a teapot, in some of the states, you can even see this white hard coating, or sometimes even on the shower doors. So this is inorganic calcium, and unfortunately it goes to your cell, and the cell is a fatty, permeable membrane. It's supposed to be kind of like, the thing's supposed to go through it. Right. But unfortunately, I see it on the test results when I do the mineral test. People walk around calcified, and then the iron gets lodged in the tissues. We're like walking around Tin Man.
Without going too specific, so basically, let me wrap my head around that for a second. Okay, so basically, people are going around drinking water, thinking they're being healthy, they're getting hydrated, and there's a lot of things in the water that probably shouldn't be in the water, and that will cause negative effects on like your health, your microbiome, whatever it might be, that will cause potentially negative effects, not necessarily by itself, but it's not necessarily good. First question would be, what should be in water? And how do you test for that? Like, is there like something I can buy on Amazon that I can like buy a mineral test and test my water out? Like where do I find a test for that? That's the first question.
Yes, well, unfortunately, the thing is, you can buy on Amazon TDS meter. You can measure your water. If it shows more than 100, there is a lot of dissolved substances there, inorganic substances. There are a lot of like calcium, and this happened because again, they use fertilizers like OPK fertilizers, and they pushing this calcium out of the soils, and it gets into our water. So the thing is to measure TDS meter. I think it's like $9 on Amazon. Get it. Measure it, your water, and if it shows more than 100, this water is probably not very good. And if, like, for example, if people going through healing protocols with me and we're working on their mineral balance, I even advise to get some distilled water or reverse osmosis filter and add minerals to it. That can be like potassium, Ancient Minerals company, the liquid minerals. It makes like a ton of different combinations. I really like those with increased potassium because everybody's so deficient in potassium. And of course, magnesium, the advice of 500 milligrams a day, I think it's laughable. I think nowadays people need at least 2,000 of magnesium because of all of the internal external stress. And our adrenals run through magnesium like with the light speed when we are very stressed. But the thing is, you have to split it, right? Because you can't absorb all more than 500 at a time. So that's why I like liquid. You can just add it to your water or
Would you, so you're recommending, or at least people should just, again, we're not recommending do anything on the show. We're just saying this is some information for you to maybe sharing information, not saying do anything. But so if I have I have a Brita in my fridge, that's like a water filter. So you're saying you don't want necessarily, because it's you put tap water in there. It's supposed to filter out potentially. Doesn't really, it might filter out a little bit, but it doesn't filter out enough is what you're saying. And then from there, so you probably want to get a reverse osmosis filter or a big gallon jug of distilled water is what you're saying.
Yes. Or I would even test the water first, because, for example, in Oregon, my water was showing, I had an in-house filter, but even without it, my water would show no more than 20. So we had a very good quality water in Oregon. Well, despite, the things that none of the water is perfect anymore. The very good water is without deuterium. You probably heard about the light water, deuterium. This is another thing that making water, like, long story short, this is another thing it's a theory while we're aging and why our body is becoming, calcified and stuff. It's deuterium in the water. I'm not sure if it's a mineral or it's like a compound that makes water heavy, but and when you freeze the water and you thaw it, it's becoming better and better quality. This is one way to actually make a good water. You freeze it and you thaw it, and you kind of like this, it has a little bit of leftovers. I think it's going to be on the top. You remove that and then you drink your water. But I would measure it, because we had pretty good water in Oregon, and I would maybe even Brita would work for it. But here in Florida, no.
Okay, so I'm gonna buy one of the, what's it called on Amazon? Where can I buy it?
TDS meters, total dissolved substances.
All right, I'm gonna buy one of these, and I'll record for everyone listening. I'm gonna record another episode going through this water thing and figure out how my water is.
Let's look at your water. Yeah, text me when you measure your water.
Yeah, I will. I mean, that's so interesting, because you're going. I mean, you see all these different brands of water out there, and it's like, oh, the alkaline water, or this, or smart. And it's like, apparently, are there any good brands of water like that you could buy from the store?
Oh, I don't know. I can't even, yes, there are some, but not on top of my head, Need to, well, maybe I need to get in a little bit more.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
We can do double research into the brand of the water. I do like the light water. These guys, they remove deuterium. It's called light water. But boy, they're expensive.
Okay, so fair enough. So we're not recommending anything. Again, I'm just very curious on the how that works. So to go back a little bit on the microbiome, and I feel like people might still be a little shaky on it. So the way I understand the microbiome, okay, you have all this bacteria, you have all these things in your stomach, and what happens is over time. So if you were to have a cheeseburger one time, no big deal, your body can handle it. It is the repeated offenses that whether it's lack of sleep, eat that Twinkie, drink that beer, do this, stress, your body just absorbs everything. And so I imagine it as a cup, and I'm using water as the point here. Ignore the water example. And you're pouring water into this cup. That's all the food, that's all the stress, all the anxiety, everything in here into this big cup. And your body can regulate it. But eventually, if you just keep repeating this over and over and over again, you're not living a healthy lifestyle. It tends to overfill. And when it overfills, it hits the ground around it, and it's almost like acid. It just starts dissolving things around it. And that's where, out of nowhere, you wake up, you're like, oh my God, my back hurts. Oh my God, this hurts. Oh my God, I don't feel good. I have IBS now. I'm allergic to this. And all these potentially, obviously some people are born with this stuff, or there's injuries, but chronic pain where we can't seem to solve it is that possible? Is that kind of a good example of how that works with the microbiome?
Absolutely, I love it. You just described how a modern person feels.
Okay.
You did the lifetime, here you go, you're a baby, and here you go, what happened to you by 40. Absolutely, this is perfect explanation of that onion with the layers, right?
Awesome.
And the cool thing I wanted to tell you, you as a personal trainer, you're gonna like these two things. One, I was when we talk about microbiome and bugs, you need to understand that there's proteins, there's advice right now how much protein you should consume, it's like crazy, the protein this, protein that, like carnivores and all of this. But the thing is, sometimes people coming to me just eating steak and asparagus and just so sick, and now I would start testing and I find H. pylori. There is a bug that lives in stomach and it buries itself in a stomach lining, and there is like epidemic of it right now. And people don't even know about it, and you can get it in a restaurant, you can kiss someone and you get it, H. pylori. And what it does, it lowers the hydrochloric acid, and when you don't have hydrochloric acid, first of all, you're open to whatever can get into your body, and second of all, you're not even digesting your proteins. Literally, they get into your small intestine, they get moved in your digestive tract, and they're sitting there rotten. So that steak, that protein, especially like the animal protein, that eggs you ate, they're just sitting there at a very high temperature with iron and the bugs, and it's like perfect food for them. So, and then people go into the gym and they're working so hard and they don't have energy and they don't have amino acids because your body cannot extract it from the undigested proteins, and then you like, what's going on? Why can't I grow muscle? So it's very important to have, if you want to be efficient, to know what's going on in your body. That's why we do testing.
How do you test? Okay, so there's this. Oh, I forgot. I didn't hear. It's like a high
H. pylori.
H. pylori.
Pylori. P. Yes.
H.
Helicobacter. Well, I don't want to confuse it. We'll stop at H. pylori.
H. pylori. Let's do H. pylori. How do you test for that? Well, I don't even understand. I don't know what that is.
There are gut tests. You can do it by blood. You can do biopsy. It's probably
it will tell you have a. I have a bug.
I like to do the DNA. So it's basically a stool. We send you a French fries basket, and you poop in it, and you put it in a vial, and you send it back to the lab. And I open it. I'm like, oh, we're having H. pylori. Let's remove that dude, and you're gonna start digesting and absorbing your food. How awesome is that? You're gonna have amino acids, you're gonna have more energy, you're gonna see the muscle growth.
If you have it, how do you is there like a specific protocol to get rid of it?
Yeah, there are several things. There is a matulity. This is basically very cool tea you order from South Africa. They even guarantee your money back if you don't get rid of H. pylori.
Really?
Okay. There is like, you can drink cabbage juice in the morning. Ew. There is a mastigum, zinc. So there is like, you can do the supplements.
Okay.
You can do the antibiotics, but you can do it without antibiotics. There is around 30 days to maybe 60 days. You can definitely get rid of it. And another cool thing, when we talk about microbiome, and you guys and us girls too, and seeing result in the gym, being focused to have a testosterone, there is a enzyme, there is a process in our digestive tract. If you have too many of these opportunistic bacteria and toxins called liposaccharides produced by these bacteria, you're actually converting your testosterone through aromatase, this process, you're converting it to estrogens. We call it dirty estrogens, not the good estrogens. So, the man walking with man boobs and spare tire around their belly, and we're like, why men don't look that manly anymore? Or why don't they can't gain muscle, or why, or ladies who lose their libido, who just like have endometriosis, polyps, fibroids growing, because and they don't have motivation, because all of that testosterone converting into estrogen. And I see the epidemic of that too. Why? Because we have garbage, excuse me, but it's garbage inside of our intestines. And we are smart, we are alive, we are God's created creatures. I mean, we got to be smarter than that. We got to be more confident and more happy with our life, that inspire us to choose what we put in our bodies, to choose what we put in ourselves. Every time you open your mouth, you give yourself to the outside world. Every time you put something inside of your mouth, it's information. Every piece of food is information. Every piece of food is offense to your internal kingdom. Even good foods, it's an offense. They have to deal with it. They have to deal with microbes. They have to deal with bacteria. They have to deal with toxins in the food, with information. When we talk about like meat that harvested, not very sustainable, or the strawberry that's grown on, glyphosate, you letting this inside of you. You're giving your power away, you're giving your soul away, basically, because you're giving a permission to this happen to you, to your body. I think we're smarter than that. I think we all can wake up and stop it.
Yeah, and that's part of the mission, is that, you know, we're almost taught or indoctrinated, even in school, right? You get the school lunches that are just really crappy for you. But I think most people, you know, they're not most, I would say this, but I feel like that they don't know better necessarily. They think they might be eating healthy, or they just don't care, or they, you know, they're not at that point yet.
Yeah.
And I do want to hit that topic in a second. But before that, you did mention something about how, you know, we choose this, what we put in our body is really important. So what would be your, you know, as someone who's a nutritionist, and you go through all this, your three, you know, your top 3, top 4, top 5, whatever harmful things, right, that we are currently consuming as a society that we should get rid of, things that we just should not have in our body anymore?
Yeah. I do believe that right now, and a lot of people, especially in the keto world, won't agree with me, but I do think the artificial sweeteners, a lot of them create more harm than even sugar nowadays, because, you know, it's all about the quality, but it's quantity too. And people thinking like, if there is no sugar in these products, you know, we can just eat a ton of these weird pre-workout drinks. Weird, I mean, they're good ones, and there's a little bit like too much in them. And these little protein bars, you must read the labels.
Which ones? Like which artificial sweeteners are you talking about? Like stevia?
Yeah, well, the stevia, it depends on which stevia you're talking about. If it's like very processed stevia, it's you know, it's not good. Like Splenda, a lot of people like thinking that the sporty energy drinks are good for you, but Splenda, it's absolutely, you know, the good bacteria, I told you about those. So the good bacteria, if you feed them, they're like elves. If we don't eat anymore, we're fasting, they sacrifice themselves and we eat them. And also they make vitamins and nutrients for us. So they're good guys. And Splenda killing them, like literally going there, killing them. And those orcs, this is how I tell my daughter all the time. Right. Are you feeding orcs or are you feeding elves? Like Lord of the Rings. So if you're feeding orcs, like those, they love Splenda for some reason. But people don't even realize, or people like read organic.
And they think, oh my
God, I argue with my mom all the time. Not argue, but
it's organic. It's like,
it's organic. I'm like, mom, there are 50 ingredients in here. I know they're organic, but boy, your body doesn't even know what to do with these. It's gonna just stop. It's gonna crash, because it's like, if I throw 50 balls at you, you're not gonna catch any of them. It's gonna harm you. The same with the body. Like I say, it's all information. So people don't realize nutrition is the wild, wild west. They told us don't touch egg yolks 10 years ago. Now it's all different. They told us margarine is good. Now it's all different. Who said that all of this crazy advice that's going around nowadays and how much they tell us to eat, that it's going to be true? I don't know, but everybody has their own complicated diet, their theory. And my thing is, when you remove yeast, when you remove that biofilm, then you remove the things that don't belong in your body starts feeling a lot better. You need less food, actually. You don't need the ton of proteins and ton of food, and you need to mix them all and stuff. Simplicity will do it.
Okay, so your first one was artificial sweeteners. So things like Splenda, Sweet and Low, half and half, potentially stevia. There's probably aspartame is probably another one. I'm trying to think of them, but I get the idea of eliminating that from your diet. Then you said yeast is the second one, I think, was what you were kind of going for.
Wine, coffee. If you drink coffee, I would highly recommend to do organic coffee, because it's coffee can be moldy, and also it's one of the most sprayed toxic sprayed by the glyphosate, the thing I pronounce it, the one for insects, pesticides. Right, pesticides. Insecticides is like mosquitoes, right? Yeah. Pesticides. They spray the coffee bean. They find a lot of mold, a lot of yeast actually in wine. I say, well, if you drink a little bit tequila. It doesn't affect
Okay.
your blood sugar, and it's not gonna have the mold like the wine might.
What about
And
black coffee? Like just black, like ground up black coffee.
yeah, why not? And you know what?
Okay, so
There's some
that's
research
okay.
saying don't drink coffee, it's bad for you. Some research saying that it's actually good for your liver.
Mhm.
So there is wild west again. It's like every industry is going to fund some research that's going to find that it's good for you or it's bad for you, and they're going to fight with each other. So listen to your body. If I want coffee, I drink coffee. I usually drink matcha tea because it has L-theanine, so it's kind of like more spread, like pleasure and energy. But I always say, when people come to me and they're saying, well, the advice says don't touch coffee because caffeine is bad for you, and they barely functioning. I'm like, you know what's bad for you? That internal stress, that mold, toxicity, that mitochondria just stop, and it goes in a defense. So it's not coffee that's killing you.
It's
It's
the
the things
bacteria.
that
Yeah.
live in you. Yeah. So drink your coffee and let's get rid of the mold and yeast. You're going to eat less. You're going to see results in the gym. You're going to have the energy. You're going to wake up feeling energetic. It's like, yes, they are telling us the wrong thing. They put our focus into the wrong things. So we would kind of like, we're looking for more supplements, more magic foods, more magic this, because the people who were funding the medications and keeping us in this hamster wheel, they realized that we're smart people, and now we're looking for natural approach. Now we look at supplements, herbs. So what do now? They buy the supplement companies.
So you can, yeah, wow.
Yes. So a lot of the cool brands, like for example, Pure Encapsulations, they were naturopathic doctors using. Now they're bought by Johnson & Johnson. And anything that is made by Johnson & Johnson, I'm not even going to touch. I mean, they mess up the baby powder. They put heavy metals in it.
Yeah.
I
There's a
mean,
huge lawsuit about that right now.
yes. I mean, yes, this is indication of me of integrity of a company. You mess with babies, you're no good. I mean, we all love babies. Don't mess with puppies and
don't
babies.
That's a pretty good like just general. Don't mess with puppies or babies, and I think you'll be okay.
Right. Like, I mean, come on, how bad can you go if you mess with babies? You can make money on something else, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you talked about a few of these things, just to give people some more specifics. Artificial sweeteners, a bunch of different things with yeast in it. So, those would be like your top two that you would want people to get rid of.
Yes.
Those two.
Yes. And third one, it's like really take care of your water, and don't drink cold water. Drink hot water, room temperature.
That sounds disgusting.
You don't like hot water, but
I love cold water. It's so good.
Yes, but you know what it does? The cold water, when
it's harder to digest. It's harder to like.
Yeah, it's hard to digest. It mixes with hydrochloric acid, and it actually gives you more of that IBS symptoms.
Oh, good.
Not particularly you, but yes.
But
and also the kidneys. They supposed to be according to traditional Chinese medicine, they are like your qi, your energy, your life force. So kidneys work over like double hard to warm up that water, the liver and kidneys. So yeah, if you hate hot water, drink room temperature.
Okay, awesome. No, great. I love that. Great. So we talked about a lot, just the bacteria, the things that you put in your body, and how that affects, potentially going to give you long-term issues, even things like depression or anxiety or just chronic pain. So can putting bad food, I hate the word to use bad food, but unhealthy, not whole food, in your body cause people to have like limiting beliefs? I know that's something you like to go into a little bit. Something we go into a lot on the show is people have limiting beliefs that cause them to not achieve whatever goal that they're looking for. And so if you believe that you're not good enough, you believe that you're not worthy, you're scared of this is too hard, whatever it is, that's a limiting belief. And whatever that limiting belief is for that specific person, and it could be, I'm not good enough. That usually is kind of where you get to. Can the microbiome, the bacteria, and what you're ingesting cause those limiting beliefs? Absolutely.
Like I said, they did the cool experiment with the chimpanzees. I always talk about this. And they, there was alpha male, and there were other monkeys. So they put them in a room and put the glass wall in between them. And whatever alpha male was, showing something like, I'm the coolest one, all the monkeys listening to them. Then they start feeding these chimpanzee the bad foods, and then put the microbiome change, and they put a lot of yeast into his body. It started to affecting his serotonin. This is the leadership hormone, and he continued to, showing the sense that he's alpha, but less and less. And when they remove this glass wall, the monkeys don't even recognize him as alpha male anymore, because his serotonin, his neurotransmitters got so low because of the microbiome, because of that yeast. The yeast can absolutely affect all of our neurotransmitters. They're like hormones for the brain. They can affect our well-being. They can affect our feeling of happiness. They can absolutely affect our brain. So, and also every food you eat is information. So when it's a whole foods, when these foods is prepared, is made with love, with intention, it's blessed, it's absolutely different information. It creates different beliefs in your system, because we are not just biology. We're electricity, we are biofield. They also did another cool experiment. They were measuring biofield of very sick people, and they found out that they have accumulation of biofield of their bad bacteria, yeast, and parasites that's suppressing their own biofield. So these guys are literally winning of a person's willpower, of a person's brain, of a person's biofield, the energy, the aura that they are emitting. It's like, this is a big thing. So everything that you put in your mouth, and of course, different foods can affect our neurotransmitters too, can affect our hormones, like maca, for example, it can affect or turmeric. There is, in the fall, when you feel like, oh, it's cloudy, it's cold, and you feel a little bit depressed, I highly recommend like a half of a teaspoon of turmeric, black pepper, cayenne pepper, a half of a teaspoon of raw cacao, glycine instead of sugar in it. And it's like hot, rich cacao that's gonna make you feel so much better. You're gonna forget about your depression. It's turmeric and black pepper with maybe a little bit of oil in it, and cacao. It's like one of the best antidepressants out there. So
Yeah.
yes.
So, and obviously I think everyone knows like eating different foods can affect your mood. But so if you're someone who doesn't deal with anxiety, right? Like you've never had in your life, and you start developing it, let's just say in your 30s. So that there's a potential for that to have been caused by what you're putting in your body, not through necessarily external stressors, is what I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely. I believe that everything is internal stressors. And I know I sound like a broken record, but yeast is actually the biggest cause of anxiety in the body.
What are the most
and how do you
yeast?
feed yeast? How do you feed yeast? And when yeast becoming systematic, like candida is one of the 300 species of yeast that can live in person's body. Everybody's candida here, candida there, but there are so many of them. And this yeast becoming fungus, and it travels to your brain. But the thing, how do we feed it? With processed foods, with sugars, with, you go into McDonald's, you're drinking a high fructose corn syrup, you're drinking your Coke that you love, it's amazing. And it's also the combination of foods is really, really important too. The grains and meat, they take absolutely different digestive enzymes, and the pancreas working over hard, and it's sitting there. If the food is not, not perfectly combined, not perfectly, but not, the combination is wrong, it's going to sit there again, rotten, and feeding the yeast, you feel heavy, you feel sleepy, you feel uninspired, and then testosterone converting to estrogen, and you're like, life is not fun anymore.
What would be like one or two foods that have like a lot of yeast contents
Beer.
in it? Besides alcohol. Yeah, I know beer. Yeah. Besides alcohol, is there any food like pretzels or bread? Like what's the food that's like everyone eats? It's like
probably, the one of the big offenders that not a lot of people know about is peanut butter. And actually there is advice, eat organic peanut, eat like raw peanut butter, don't eat raw peanut butter. because it can contain yeast. So
how do you know though? How do you know it's in there? It doesn't say it.
That yeast is in there.
Yeah, it
so
doesn't
this
say
is
it.
so this is like more of a mold yeast. So it's not the adding the yeast into it.
Well, how do you know
It's
then?
more like a mold. They did a research, and when what they find out when they make the peanut butter, they put a bunch of peanuts, and they don't check they don't test the quality of the peanuts. They just like some of them have yeast and mold in them, and they just put everything together. It's like making the sausage. You don't know what kind of quality meat is in there. They just putting everything together and just
I
pack
love
it.
peanut butter.
Yes,
I
I
have peanut
love peanut
butter
butter
like
also.
daily. I love peanut butter.
Mm-hmm,
I don't know if I'll
mm-hmm.
stop eating that. Like, does yeast isn't like an ingredient? I mean, I'm
Yeah,
nutrition certified.
you just use peanut butter that is not raw. Yeah. People saying use raw peanut butter. Don't use raw peanut butter.
Okay.
You just when they process it, it's the yeast usually dies.
Wow, peanut butter. Who knew?
Yeah.
I'm
What
assuming
else
like,
can we think about
well,
yeast?
like bread, I imagine.
Bread, absolutely,
Man,
yes. And the bread, yes. And what else? I don't know.
I just
It's
want to
just
give people one or two ideas of like,
yeah,
like if you're
yeah.
having
Well,
bread,
bread, I think bread is just generally, it's just you got to be in a pretty healthy condition to eat bread. I mean, you've got to be a healthy person. If you do have some pains, indigestion, bloating, just do
bread's
the
not great.
protocol to get rid of it.
What
Yeah,
about
and
whole
stop
grain?
bread for
Multi-grain whole grain bread. What
I
about
think it's just marketing. Another thing is it's just a marketing approach. Like, oh, you don't want this bread? How about whole grain bread? How about Ezekiel and stuff like this? Of course, when it was probably 70 years ago when they wanted to feed like the whole world, what they did, they modified the grain. So the bread that our grandma used to eat is totally different. The grain was different. And now they say that there is almost no grain left that was, the grain that was initially normal grain. Now it's all pretty much all genetically modified.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. Last question I have for you, because I want to be mindful of your time and everything, is you mentioned that you gave us a kind of a little ingredient about, you put some things together and you'll forget about your depression. So I want to get, if it's possible, do you have a food item, one or two food items, fruits, vegetable, like broccoli, apples, whatever, that are good to build up someone's like maybe serotonin or help reduce inflammation that would make them feel better? Because a lot of what people in my mind are experiencing is just this very difficult time to get inspired, very difficult time to stay disciplined, very difficult time to be motivated, very difficult time to just feel good about themselves. Are there any foods that might help with that feeling of just like, oh my gosh, my life? And it's like, is there any food that might cause any sort of just boost that people could have that's relatively healthy?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I just love the combination of like making you a hot drink, like this cocktail. So I love maca. That is very good for the brain. That's inspiring. And I love the combination of maca, raw cacao, and turmeric. If you combine these and glycine, instead of the sugar, the glycine, the amino acid, it's very sweet. So if you want something sweet, use glycine as a sweetener. It's amazing for your brain. It's going to make you sleep good. It helps you to fight depression. So I love to use this. I actually use maca, raw cacao, turmeric, a little bit of cayenne black pepper, and glycine in it, and you get yourself pretty cool drink. Also, grapefruit is amazing to fight depression, and it's really healing for your liver. So I'm always saying, if you have problems with your liver, bloating, indigestion, what I recommend, and especially if you have constipation, a lot of people don't talk about it, but a lot of people suffer from it. I recommend get the capsules, the the castor oil capsules. You can get them on Amazon. Freeze them for 2 weeks in your freezer. You take 3 of those capsules and take some grapefruit and just eat grapefruit, drink grapefruit juice, and you're gonna see the wonders that are gonna happen in your liver and in your brain, that boosting that serotonin. You're going to feel a lot better. And nowadays grapefruits are pretty sweet.
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
that's awesome. I didn't know
Hmm.
grapefruit. That's pretty cool. So just to reiterate, so you do raw cacao, maca, glycine, and turmeric. Do you put that you put in water, or like
Yeah,
what do you
and
put it
you
in?
pour hot water, and don't forget
And
a
your
little bit
bat
of black pepper,
a
and you
black
can add
pepper.
ghee. You can add ghee to make it even like, like more filling and more kind of like cool drink. You can add ghee, or you can add coconut water. I mean, coconut oil, or even coconut butter. Not the oil, but actually one with
What about olive oil?
yeah, you can add olive oil, but I find that ghee, it's like more suitable for like a drink. People like it more. And if you add glycine, you can add to a teaspoon of glycine. Or raw honey. Raw honey is absolutely amazing for people who like suffer a little bit from depression, and they need a breakthroughs. So this drink can really help and support you through the day. It's gut healing and brain boosting. Absolutely amazing. I love it.
Wow.
And pine pollen, you can add pollen to it. It's also helping to boost the neurotransmitters, and giving you that desire to go through life and accomplish tasks. And another thing is, when we talk about psychosomatics, I always say this adrenal fatigue, and this, when you're losing depression, when you're losing desire to live, a lot of things, they deplete our energy. So two things I see transform my clients' lives right away is to go through everything in your life, in your house, in your relationships, and remove everything and everybody and everything that doesn't make you inspired or fun anymore. Literally, go to your closet, put everything on in front of the mirror. Oh, doesn't make me sexy anymore. Throw it away. Ooh, doesn't look good. Doesn't make my soul sing. Throw it away. Go through your cabinets. Go through your email list. Unsubscribe. Delete all of the photos. Clean up your life. And another thing is, start accomplishing your tasks. When you sign up for the course and you're like, I finish it later, and you don't, when you say, I'm going to start this cool thing, and you're like, I do this later. So nowadays we have so many tasks that are open. So what it does, it runs cortisol on the back of your mind, cortisol, the stress hormones, all the time. But every time we accomplish this task, your brain says, check. It gives you dopamine explosion. You're like, I feel good. I feel good. I'm inspired to do the next thing. This is how our brain is wired. Accomplish, like finish whatever you started. Even if you feeling like you can't finish it, that means unsubscribe, forget about it, and put check. Don't just, if you didn't accomplish it in a couple of weeks, just get rid of it. And you will see how it's going to change that energy. Because all of these, the old things that you can say goodbye to, and all the tasks that you didn't finish, they sucking the life out of us.
Wow. Powerful. I love that. Way to end it. Powerful message. Tell people where they can find you.
It's my hard to pronounce first and last name, Olesya, Olesya Wilson.com, and you should have seen my Russian last name before. Now I have an easier one, but it's OlesyaWilson.com. And also on YouTube, I have a ton of videos. I have a like roadmap to superhuman series, which is like short video each day, and it helped me to absolutely transform my body, life, and business. And I share it with people on the YouTube, my YouTube channel. It's also Olesya Wilson. And on Instagram, it's mindoverbody.me. I have an Instagram.
Awesome. And all that will be in the show notes. So everyone take a look at that. Click on it, go to the YouTube channel, check out the website for more amazing information. Look, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I had fun talking to you. That was fun.
It was great. Thank you so much.